Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a huge transformation that is actually just part 1 of 2, but we will be taking this to this beautiful burgundy with hidden rainbows. So she was actually my model for my color correction and subtle rainbows class back in September, and I wanted to wait until her touch-up appointment to do part 1 and then part 2 so that they'd be together. So next week I will be showing part 2, what it looked like when she came back, and this week we will be doing part 1. But first I am going to get her sprayed down with a little water to open the cuticle, and then using my K18 mist to get her hair nice and prepped so that it can stay really healthy through all of the lightening process. Now I will say she does have curly, frizzy hair, and a lot of times people think that frizz means damage, but that is not always the case. Her hair actually felt pretty healthy despite the fact that she has put it through a lot. This is my first time doing her hair, and I am gonna start with these really small sections, and I'm just going to do a platinum card through her entire head. So I'm starting with Danger Jones and 5 volume developer. Whenever I'm doing a really big process like this, I like to start really low and slow and work my way up as I make my way through the head. It is amazing the lift that you can get using just a 5 volume. But you can see I'm staying a little bit off the root, and then I'm going all the way down, hitting anything that's natural and staying off of the previously lightened hair. You can see I like to kind of put it under my section to really make sure that it's nice and saturated. I like using the 1 to 2 parts developer for larger sections like this because I feel like the saturation just works a lot better when it's less thick, the lightener. But I will speed this up now because it was definitely a lot of work, and this is going to be a 30-minute video already. So I am just going to make my way through the head, like I said, staying a little bit off the root and just hitting all that virgin hair. Now, I also am not locking the foils. You can see that I'm just folding them in half. So I don't want to do that tri-fold because I have to go back and hit the roots. So if I'm doing a tri-fold, it's going to really lock it, and then I'm going to have to kind of unfold the foil a little bit to pull it down, because I like to pull my foil just a little when I come back down to hit that root. So by not locking it and just doing that fold in half, it's going to make it so much easier for me when I'm going back around and hitting all those roots. Now, I like to kind of move around the head together when I'm in the back instead of doing just one side and then the other side, because when I get to the very top and I get to like a little triangle section, I like to bring them together. And now I'm just going to be repeating this all through her head. But you can see exactly how thin I'm making these sections. You really want to be able to see the foil through that section, and if you can't, then it's probably too thick. When you're doing big projects like this, to really ensure that you're gonna get the most even results in the safest way possible, I really recommend taking small sections like this. I know it's super tedious and she's literally going to have hundreds of foils in her hair, but I promise you, for the best results, this is the best way that you can go about it. And I'm just gonna kind of keep going back and forth from side to side as I make my way up, and you can really see how much time I spend on each section. And also make sure that you're kind of lifting it up a little. You'll see me do that here and there, just to make sure that it's saturated on both sides. But keep those sections really nice and thin. I like to put the brush under it like that, and then just saturate and stay off the previously lightened hair, because we are going to be coming back for that after we wash this out. And I'm going to be using the Danger Jones color remover, and I did not know what to expect with her hair. Like I said, it was my first time doing it, and when her friend did it, they used all Sally Beauty products, so I was not prepared. And let me tell you, as soon as I started doing that color remover, I was like, oh, I have made a terrible mistake choosing this girl for my class because the class was the next day, but I did it. It turned out great. It was really funny. I don't regret my choices at all. I'm very, very happy that I chose her for my color correction model because that's what I advertised. That's what I wanted to show. I wanted to show real world crazy color corrections that you think are going to be impossible and make them possible. But I am just going to continue saturating all that regrowth and getting this nice and blonde. She actually lifted really great on her virgin hair, which was awesome. But yeah, that blue, it really had a hard time coming out. You can see how dark it is still here. So I definitely got a lot of it out, but it was still pretty blue. I was very impressed with what she looked like when she came back though. I was expecting a lot of blue and it wasn't. So I'm excited for you all to see her hair next week and what it looked like 3-4 months later, basically. And you can see those sections really good. See how I lift it up to make sure that I'm getting everything that's dark and then really, really saturate. I really spend a lot of time on each foil. You don't want to rush with something like this. I like to use a comb to make sure everything is nice and smooth. You don't want the hair to be like chunked up anywhere. That's where you're gonna also get uneven lift. And then when I hit this point, because it's been a while, I usually like to start checking the hair down at the very bottom. The hairline is always gonna lift really fast, and she definitely had some pieces that were already ready to come out. So I'm just making my way through. You can see how thin that section is. And the new growth was a little crazy, and I was asking her, I was like, she didn't do highlights, right? Like it's a little different back here than it is in the front. And she's like, oh yeah, I think we ran out of product. So that was an interesting find, but we made it through and just hitting all that new growth. And look at all those foils. I know her head was getting heavy. I'm also using Framar foils here. I really love their foils. I don't get them for free. I'm not sponsored or I don't have a code or anything, but they are probably my favorite foils. I just really like the texture of them. They have like a good weight to them. I don't like when foils are too thin. So that's why Framar are my favorite. And then I like these big paint brushes when I'm doing products or projects like this. And then my rat tail comb, if you're curious about that, is a YS Park comb. Those are my absolute favorite combs. That's what pretty much all of my combs are, is YS Park. They last forever and you can just soak them in barbicide all the time without worrying about them breaking. And they are carbon fiber. But you can see how I got up to that final triangle, and then I'm picking out those dark pieces that I found and lightening them with the other new growth. And we are almost through the back of her head, which is super exciting. Yeah, we had a lot of dark up there. So I decided instead of folding it to just put another foil on top. So whenever my section is bigger than half of the foil, that's when I'm usually going to bring out a second foil to put it on top instead of folding it. I really don't like folding the hair that's being lightened. Every time you do that, you run the risk of having a crease in there, and there's just nothing worse than taking out a foil and seeing like lines and creases in your lightened hair. Ugh, I just hate it. So that is why I like to keep those straight and not folded up, because the other ones, the part that's folded was not where the lightened hair was. So this one was a little longer. That's why I'm putting the foil on top. And now we are gonna move around to the other side, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing over here. Really nice small sections, being super careful to stay off that previously lightened hair, and also a little bit off the root. and just making my way through. It's always funny too, because I feel like when you look at her from far away, it's like, oh, it's not that much roots. And then as soon as you get in there, it's like, oh no, there's a lot of roots. All right. I feel like I always underestimate every person I look at. I'm like, yeah, that'll be easy. I can do that. And then it's a huge project, but I love it. I can't believe it's my job sometimes. This is when I decided to get a little bib for her and start pulling some more of those pieces in the back. I always am checking those back foils, especially on a new client. If I'm not familiar with your hair and how it processes, how long it normally takes, I am going to be like on top of it all the time, checking it, because I just don't want there to be any surprises. So really make sure, if you're not familiar with somebody's hair yet, that you're checking those all the time and making sure that they're good, because everybody processes a little bit differently and you just want to be safe about it. But now I'm getting my big foils just for the top of her head, but still taking those really, really thin sections. This is one of the only times that you will see me using these big long foils, is when I'm doing a platinum card like this, because everything is going to be getting lightened. So I just need to take this big long section up front and I'll be good. But you can see here, just hitting that new growth, keeping it really thin still, nice and separated. I love combing my section like that. You can't go wrong when you do it that way. You know that it's not going to be a big clump anywhere. You're going to get really even lightening. And that is just my absolute favorite thing to do when I'm taking a big section. Just run that comb through real fast and make sure that it's nice and smooth. And I cannot wait to show you guys how well she lifted. I was so happy. I mean, the Danger Jones lightener is always amazing, so I was not surprised, but she just lifted to platinum perfectly. And just getting all these front pieces. She does have some fringe, so gave her a nice little trim there and fixed up her bangs. Getting all that new growth. And this will be our very last section. And then we are done with the first part of her lightening process. I also like that little trick of kind of putting it under my section and then bringing the foil in. And you can really see how I feathered down on that section. Really make sure that I'm only getting that natural hair and not the previously lightened hair. But it was kind of all over the place. You can see there, like it's a lot longer on some parts and shorter on others. So you just have to be real careful and just only hit the parts that need it. And by this time, I'm definitely using 20 volume developer. And when I went around and did her roots, I also did 20 volume developer there. So we are at our last few sections here using my large foils so that I can use that entire side of her head and not have to do a couple different ones. Getting that all saturated. I cannot wait for you to see how she lightened, but oh my gosh, that blue. It was crazy. I think my favorite part about the class that I taught, which you'll get to see a little bit of me teaching it, was when I was telling everybody in the class, I started to regret my decision last night when I was doing her hair but I did want to show a color correction. And one of the ladies that was in the class was like, hey, you advertised color correction, real world crazy color correction. And that's what I wanted to see. And I was like, you are 100% right. So I am very glad that I did it because it really turned out to be such a great class. It was so much fun. And Dulcie was a perfect model to show going from one end of the color wheel almost to the other, and just had such a great time with her. I'm glad that I found her. I actually found her working at CVS and she was just so cute. And I said, I would love to do your hair. And I'm teaching a color correction class. Would you like to be my model? So You never know, if you have crazy hair out in the wild and you're super adorable, I might just come right up to you and ask if I can do your hair. But now that we are done applying all of the lightener, I am going to start pulling these foils and hitting those roots. You can see some of it already got a little lightened when I was pulling the foils. That's totally fine. It's not going to over process or anything. And I am just going to go through, and anything that I saw in those mids, probably from when she added blue color where it wasn't all virgin, like right before it turned blue, that was really the only part that didn't get super platinum, but totally fine. I don't need it to even be platinum because we are doing like a burgundy. So really she could have been orange, but I didn't want to lift her to orange. I wanted to get her nice and blonde because I want to be able to do whatever she wants in the future and have a nice clean canvas to work with. But you can see just how beautiful she lifted. And then right here, this is what I was talking about, not wanting to lock my foils, because now I'm going to go through and just pull those foils just a little bit so I can hit the roots through her hair. And that is one thing that I talk about a lot whenever I talk about Danger Jones lightener, but it does not swell and it has this like paste consistency. So it's really stuck in there. You have to give a nice little tug on that foil to pull it down. It's not like your standard lightener that's swelling and watery and loose and then you have bleed marks everywhere. Wherever you put that Danger Jones lightener, that is where it's going to stay. So another thing that I just love so much about it. But I am using my little half folded foils, tugging just a little bit, and then going through her entire head and hitting the roots because we want a platinum card. We want her to be platinum blonde. And if you are not a hairstylist and you don't know what a platinum card is, this is pretty much it, where you're just lightening everything on the hair. You're not leaving out any lowlights. This is not highlights. It's just everything through the entire head. So that's what that means. Obviously not the stuff that's already been lightened. If I put that into a foil, there's a good chance that it would break and we don't want that. But I am just going through and hitting all of her roots with my 20 volume developer and Danger Jones lightener, the powder lightener, I will specify. There is a cream lightener and a powder. This is the powder. And now once I get this side done, that will be her entire head and we will be completely done with lightener. And then we can move on to the color remover. I washed her out using the K18 Detox shampoo, and I did a couple shampoos because this was a really big lightening service. And whenever I'm using this much lightener, I like to do a double shampoo. But look at how blonde she is. Is that amazing? So this right here is the Danger Jones color remover and 10 volume. And I am just really saturating it. I'm using one of those color brushes that has the comb on it. And these are amazing because then you can just kind of comb it through. But I am really massaging that in there. I'm not treating it like a lightener. It's a color remover. So I'm really trying to get it into that hair strand because I want to pull all that color out. But oh my gosh, you can see how dark it was. I had to do 2 of these. So I only am going to show one because you don't need to see me do the exact same thing twice. But I did 2 rounds of color remover because it was just so intense. It did not want to come out. And I was just like, okay, that's what we're going to work with for the color correction class. So honestly, I could not have been happier with the end result for what we started with, especially. I was just so amazed. So very happy it turned out the way it did and that you guys don't have to witness a disaster. But look at how dark. It's like it's almost black when it's wet. But as soon as the color remover goes on, you can see how much it is starting to take it out. But one thing I'll say, because she didn't use professional color before, a lot of times these non-professional fashion colors, they can have like fabric dye in them. You don't know what is in them, and this is definitely not your standard hair color. It was just crazy stuck in there, but we are making our way through. Look at how beautiful her blonde looks. Besides that, it was gorgeous. Getting all of that out and really, really saturating. Doing the same up front now. Now, after our couple rounds of color remover, I washed her out again using the K18 Detox shampoo, and then I did one of the regular pH balance shampoos from K18 just to kind of calm down her hair strand a little bit. Then after I took her out, I used the K18 mask and blow dried her, and then we got our semi-permanent color in. So you'll see here while we're at my old studio, which is, it's so cute to see my old studio now, because if you've seen my videos, I have a new one with a window and a little bit different, but it's in the same building, and I kind of miss my little cave, but not really. I love my new studio so much. But you'll see in this video, I'm only going to paint half of her head at my studio, and then the other half I painted at my class the next day. So right here, I'm going in with my reddish pink burgundy formula. Now you'll notice I'm only going down to where the blonde ends. Anything that has blue on it, I did not touch, but you can still see there's a lot through those mids and ends. But my formula here, I used a mixture of Diablo, Hustler, Masquerade, and Hysteria. I love just mixing all the purples and reds together in my little watercolor book. I'm sure you've seen it in other videos, but just mixing it up and seeing what you can get. And then once I get down to the ends, when I finally color where the orange or where the blue parts are, I added orange into my formula. So if you know the color wheel, you know that orange is the opposite of blue. So if I'm trying to cancel out blue, I want orange. Now this is a pretty like reddish, purpley, pinky tone. So if I put too much purple with a blue, then it's just going to be purple. So I knew that it was still going to be a little more purple and a little darker than the hair on top. But what I did was I added some of the hot wire, the neon orange, when I went through those ends that had the blue in them. So right here, I am just doing those base colors and anything through the mids that's blonde, and then kind of stopping right when I get to the blue. Now, my class that I taught not only was the color correction class, but it was a subtle rainbow class. So I taught a little rainbow halo panel, and that is what we are going to do right here, also using Danger Jones colors. And my purple is Masquerade and Clear. My blue is Vertigo and Clear. And sadly, Vertigo has been discontinued. So it honestly makes me want to cry just looking at this. But my green was Adrenaline with a little Vertigo, RIP. Yellow is Star Rider with some Ray Gun. The orange is Burnout and Hotwire. And the pink is Lovesick and Hustler. So I just did a few of these little rainbow panels. I basically just made a halo around her head and then did these little rainbows right there, and then they just kind of popped out. And what's really cool about this, for me anyway, is Dulcie had no idea what I wanted to do when I asked her to do my class. And then I said I wanted to do this like hidden rainbow look with like the reds and the pinks, and she was super down for it. And then when she decided to come back to me, it wasn't as a model. She came to me as a client, and she wanted to do the same thing. So the fact that she loved what I did for her, that was just like my imagination creation for my class, and that she loved it so much to get it again, that was like, oh, it touched my heart. It made me happy that she loved it so much. So I just thought I'd share that because it really made me feel good. But I am just going to paint all her rainbows here. I just love painting rainbows. If you ever tell me do whatever you want, like there is a 100% chance you're gonna get rainbows. But pretty much the same thing right here, just making another little rainbow panel. following my pattern. And then that's all we're gonna do while I'm at the studio. Just these 2 little rainbow panels and then our beautiful burgundy color. And you can see just how thin I keep those sections so that I know it's getting saturated fully. That's another reason I love these clear sheets, because then I can see underneath and know that it's all saturated as well. So as long as you're taking those really nice thin sections, you're gonna be golden. I feel like that should just be the name of my page, Thin Sections. It's just what I'm telling everybody all the time. But oh, look at how beautiful those rainbows are. I just love them so much. And now we are going to go through and finish her roots. And this is that same color that I did on the bottom. I'm just hitting all the blonde parts and stopping at the blue, because after this, I'm going to add in that little bit of neon orange. And that will help just a little to try to cancel some of that blue and make it a little brighter. But beautiful. I was so excited to see it and to do the class the next day. I just couldn't believe that we made it. I was like, we survived, we did it. But running through all those mids and ends now with that second formula, and she is ready. So this is what she looked like after it finished, and that was the other side, what I got to do in the class. Here was us before the class started, and here was a little bit during the class. I decided to do another little rainbow panel at the bottom. You can see all of my formulations right there on my little whiteboard. And oh, look at how long her hair is. But I decided to do this little rainbow panel back here, super cute. And then I did the exact same thing with my burgundy everywhere else and our hidden halo right on that top crown area. Really rubbing in those rainbows. That's the best way that you can do it to make sure that they are nice and blended together. Couple people in the class there. There was about 11 people that came. I had such a great time. It was amazing. This was my first time throwing together my own class, because I've educated for other companies previously, but this was my first time just doing it by myself, making an independent class, and it was so much fun. And I really appreciate everybody that came out to it. But you can see how cute our little rainbow is there. Love it. And now I am just going through and doing the exact same thing, hitting all of those mids and ends. And I cannot wait to show you the after. And this, of course, is the tail end now, getting those blue mids to ends with my little bit of hot wire added into my mixture. And I love these brushes with the comb. You can see how nice it glides through. And here it is after she was rinsed out. You can already see those hidden rainbows popping out. So cute. And I'm using my K18 mask and then my Leaf and Flower 7-minute blowout and frizz remedy spray, as well as the K18 volume spray, oil, and heat bounce. But look at those beautiful rainbows. So cute. Oh, I love it. I get so excited every time I see rainbows. And here is our beautiful after. So gorgeous. She was such a great model and such a great sport for spending so much time with me. But look at how beautiful that turned out. I am just absolutely obsessed with it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for another tutorial. Please like and subscribe, especially because you do not want to miss next week, where we will see part 2. And oh, look at that picture. Love it. I'll see you next week. Bye.